longer as you fight. I love it! Look at them fall! Outstanding! What? What? How?
Hello everyone, I am CoolGuy, welcome back, and today we're going to be going over the recent changes to Spectral Blades. We had a recent update to the game, the start of Season 5, and as we go through this video, all gameplay in the background is post-patch footage unless noted on the screen as pre-patch. And also, I'm using the Guizin vest. Guizin, we're going to call it Guizin, it's easier for me. The Guizin vest is getting adjusted next week to address how the perk is working, as well as the 5 orb limit. And it actually worked out, so I can show you guys all that the super does now for this video. Make no mistake though, the Guizin is nutty, and with these changes, if you didn't before, you can kind of see why a rework is going to be happening. With this update, the Spectral Blade subclass got a lot of adjustments, and with every change there are goals in mind. They said in the previous update post, Spectral Blades was heavily retuned to increase the reliability of melee attacks in PvP and to bolster the effectiveness of super stealth capabilities. The following changes are planned to reach these goals. Increased melee lunge range of all attacks, reduce the cost of light melee attacks, increase the number of consecutive hits required to speed up attack rate, decreasing base attack speed to improve hit registration on intended targets, and they say the goal here is to increase the intentionality of the attack rate increase so that it's most often happening when players are focusing on a single target. Retune melee targeting to have a greater emphasis on player input, so where your input is going and directed, that's where the camera is going to be facing, and the goal of that is to reduce the likelihood of you hitting other targets you don't want to hit. They wanted to increase the viability of the stealth mechanics, added a small amount of damage resistance in the stealth state, and further decrease the super drain when in stealth state, and that's going to be a big one. We're going to go through these notes and break them down using pre and post patch footage, compare how it changed. And let's start off with the further decreased super drain while in the stealth state. That's where it all starts, and after we go over it, the other tweaks are kind of on top of this one. Pre-patch, you would pop your super, stay in Wraith mode, it lasted for 25 seconds. Post-patch, that is extended 5 seconds to 30 seconds. That's our new base super, 30 seconds while in the stealth state. The next buff increased melee range of all attacks. Now to do this, I did it from Guardian to Guardian. Pre-patch, with the light attack, the regular melee, the lunge range was 6 meters. The heavy attack was 7.5 meters. Post-patch, the new lunge range for the light melee is 10 meters, so an added 4. And that's no joke, guys, and we're going to talk about that in a later portion and how it fits in another way. Now, for the heavy attack that was at 7.5 meters, you would think that it would do something similar, like adding 4 to make it 11.5, but no. The new heavy attack lunge range is 10 meters as well. So both are now 10 meter attacks. This is going to be ideal. It means that you shortstop way less, and when you do shortstop, it's an actual miss. The hit detection is so much better, and we'll go through that, but this is the new lunge distance, and it also means that you're a little bit faster because you're lunging a couple meters further. You're jumping further each time that you swipe, kind of like the original Destiny 1 Blade Dancer. And to show that, let's go over the next couple of buffs. Reducing the cost of light melee attacks, and to show that, if you were to pop your super pre-patch and just melee, the 25-second super goes down to 10 seconds. That's how much it drained it. And in 10 seconds, you can get a total of 18 melees in before your super was done. Post-patch, if you pop your super and just melee, it lasts for 15 seconds, half the time of the new base 30. In 15 seconds, you can get in 31 melees. So far, Spectral Blades is acting more predictable. You have a 30-second super, it's reduced to 15 seconds if you just use your light attacks. And as far as the heavy attack, I didn't really test that because you're going to be using that to go from target to target, but for what it's worth, you can get in 9 heavy attacks with the new buff. So let's put the pre and post patch footage side by side and take a look at this again and come back to how you lunge a couple meters further due to the extended lunge range. What wasn't in the patch notes is that when you're meleeing to cover a distance, the camera moves back further away from you now. The end result is covering more ground at a less of a cost and both attacks having a 10 meter distance to work with to look and find your opponent. And now it's a lot more fluid. You kind of skate along everywhere you go. There's no really hard stopping, hard animations. It's kind of just goes with the flow now. It's awesome. As far as armor, the resistance that they gave, it is noticeable. Now for pre-patch testing, I had on 2 void pieces maxed out. That's going to be my fault for not remembering to take the void gear off. But when I had them on, a Better Devils did 29 to the head and 20 to the body. That's regardless if I was in the stealth state or not. Post-patch, in the same scenario, so in this case I have on 2 Void Masterwork pieces, the Better Devils does 21 to the head and 14 to the body in Wraith mode, and 24 to the head and 16 to the body while not in Wraith mode. So regardless, you take less damage than before. If you have on no Void armor, so just basic gear, non-masterworked, in Wraith mode you take 23 to the head and 16 to the body. Out of Wraith mode, 26 to the head and 18 to the body. And for what it's worth, I put on 4 Void Masterwork armor pieces to pair with the Guaizen, and with 4 pieces, you take 20 to the head and 14 to the body while in Wraith, and when you're out of Wraith, 23 to the head and 16 to the body. I have some background footage for you guys to look at, and I can tell you I've survived a lot more than I used to, and you will as well. Things like taking multiple grenade launcher shots and still closing down and closing in on my opponent and still getting him. I've been in very sticky situations and still surviving. Now the armor they gave is significant and is now the difference between taking the death and surviving to get the kill. By any means, it's not overpowered or overly done, it's just enough. These would have been deaths pre-patch, these 2 things that we're looking at right now. It is substantial, it has a lot of worth. Now the next 2 things, when I first saw them, I thought they were nerfs. Technically they are nerfed, but they aren't in practice, if that makes sense. They're actually buffs overall. The first one is increasing the number of consecutive hits required to speed up attack rate. The blades used to go really fast as you got consecutive hits. Now you need more hits to get them up to that speed. The second thing was decreasing base attack speed to improve hit registration on intended targets. Those 2 things coexist to get to an end goal, which is the last patch note, retune melee targeting to have a greater emphasis on player input. When you look at those 2 things, kind of a nerf. Overall decreased attack speed, and now takes longer to get the speed up, but with all the other tweaks, this is a buff in the long run. So let's take a look of a clip pre-patch, and then let's take a look of a raw clip post-patch. Pre-patch goes faster, but remember, you can only do this for 10 seconds with the old super, while just meleeing with a light attack. Now I got in about 20 melee attacks. I tried this about 10 times, and believe it or not, this is the best footage that I can show you. Because as far as hitting those 20 melee attacks, the reason for that is I either go through my target, or a thrall comes by and I hit him, slowing me down, and then I have to go back to my original target. This happened all the time pre-patch. Then we have post-patch. It's a slower speed, but the target I'm aiming at gets hit 36 times for 15 seconds. And I'm able to do that because of the longer super, less melee attack drain, and again, sure, it's a tad slower, but the most important thing is happening. I am hitting the target that I am aiming for. I'm not going through him, because pre-patch you would just melee and morph through the target, and now it happens rarely, if at all, anymore. So those 2 things that I thought were nerfs were more than compensated for and made the overall super better. But there's another thing that Spectral Blades is doing. Pre-patch, it went target to target. Now, after the update, if targets are grouped up, it takes out multiple enemies at the same time with a single swipe. And because it is doing this, there's no more jerky movements. That 10-meter lunge range takes that area, that 10 meters is to do the damage. And actually, we can go back through these clips and show it. In the first one, I hit a thrall going in, but midway, another one comes. I'm mashing the melee button, mashing the trigger, and I go through the target that I'm aiming at to hit the thrall behind him, and then I magnetize back to the target that I was hitting. In the post-patch footage, what we have now, there's another super with me, but the issue is still there. A group of thrall comes right behind my target, but I don't budge and I actually get one of the thrall while still hitting the target that I'm aiming at. And that's another huge deal for this subclass. Before, if you got close to multiple enemies, it would single out each one. And when it did that, you would miss, you would shortstop, it wouldn't really connect. Now, if you come up on a group or you're going into some enemies, it takes them out with a single lunge, the initial lunge, and the damage goes through. It's almost like an AoE, like an invisible AoE, if that makes sense. And we won't have separate swipes if we're close to multiple enemies, just one swipe. That is huge for the overall function. Like we have this wizard. I'm staying on my intended target and there's a lot of thrall coming right behind it. The thrall are just dying to the melee attacks that I'm landing on my target. Huge difference in how the super is working inherently now. In conclusion, I stand by my assessment. Spectral Blades got a massive buff. Everything that was done is calculated, everything works better now, everything was done to make it complete. Now, I'm not saying that I haven't mishit or short-stopped, because I have. I think that we're always going to have that in Destiny. It's few and far now. Most of the time I'm hitting my target, and when I do miss, it's an easier recovery, and that's what's really important. With the improved hit detection, you can feel it. I haven't missed back-to-back yet. The super itself, Spectral Blades, on the Way of the Wraith, was the weakest part of the kit. It was all about True Sight, but not anymore, because the super can compete. It's almost close to early Destiny 1 Blade Dancer in my opinion now. One of the best parts though, is I'm getting really comfortable with challenging other supers. If you're a Spectral Blades user, you know that if you hear another one pop, you just kind of stayed away. But now with its movement, its better armor, its hit detection, I'm challenging now and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Like in this clip, I 1v1 an Arcstrider, we parry each other. He actually gets in a hit on me, but it doesn't kill me. That used to kill Spectral Blades. So what I did is what I recommend that you do versus other supers, is to get above them like I am and do a heavy attack. I end up getting him. Never would have happened without this buff, never. The super was so outclassed before. Right here I have 3 supers popped on me, 2 sentinels and hammers. I parry a shield bash, but with one swipe I take out both sentinels. It's unreal how the super's working now. I can see Spectral Blades becoming a lot more popular after this update, and I do recommend that you try it out. I know that Blade Barrage is fun, believe me, but this one is too, and it got a lot better, massive buff. And with what we learned today, use it to your advantage. Most won't have the Guys Invest, but that doesn't change its core mechanics. The most important thing to do is stay in stealth mode when you're moving. That's what the class is all about, stealth. So get close to your targets, get a kill or two, go right back into stealth mode, and save your super energy. I'm very impressed with what they did, and it's kind of tough with some of the footage that you've seen throughout this video, because everything I talked about up until this point you can see. Me hitting multiple enemies with one swipe, me going target to target and not really short stopping, getting better distance, all that stuff, but it's hard to talk about it each and every single time. But it was there. Now I do this at the end of the video. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to leave a like, and if you haven't subscribed, remember to hit the subscribe button. We're growing and we would love for you guys to be a part of it. If you are subscribed, I really appreciate you. Thank you for your continued support. What are your thoughts on these changes to Spectral Blades? Can you tell a huge difference? How does the class feel? Thank you guys for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.